Alex, we've been doing this show for a while now, and
Yes.
we've had advertisers, of course, all across
100%.
our show. But we have yet to have the thing we all came from, a video game sponsorship. And guess what? That changes right now, Alex.
Oh, yeah?
Right this very minute.
Well,
right this very minute.
Look, I'm only going to say yes to this if it is a 1-to-1 recreation of the Chernobyl exclusion zone made from 3D terrain scans of the real CEZ, including foliage and architecture. That's the only condition I have.
That's a hyper-specific condition, but one I can actually meet. Because today we're being sponsored by Chernobylite. I've actually played this game when it launched on PC almost 6 months to like a year ago at this point, and poured a ton of time into it. And guess what, Alex? I know you're a console boy. And on April 21st, this is coming out to the PS5, Xbox Series X and S. And if you already own it on the PC players are going to get access to the Season 1 Blue Flame DLC the very same day.
Okay, well, I only have two conditions if I buy it on PS5, which I have a PS5, so that's exciting news to me. Number one, I need some kind of support for the DualSense controller. If there's support for the DualSense controller, maybe some activity card features. I don't know. That would be great. But also, it has to be, I have a story in mind that I've always wanted to do, and it's about an ex-nuclear reactor employee named Igor who's searching for his missing wife. And then he gets like a heist crew together to like get in there and find her, and there's like he finds more than he bargained for kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Again, you have such specific taste, but I'm here to serve you, Alex. I can give you both of those, and with the cherry on top, I can give you ray tracing support, new graphic options, including a dynamic 4K resolution with 30 FPS, or a smooth 60 FPS at 1080p.
I love when they do that.
Isn't it amazing? More before we wrap this little sponsorship up as well, I got something for the viewers. They're giving away a collector's edition of this game to one of our listeners. All you got to do is just go over to our Twitter, twitter.com/Chilluminati and just tweet us out about Chernobylite with hashtag Chernobylite. And within 24 hours of this episode going up, one lucky winner is going to get pulled, and you're going to get it comes with a gas mask, like an ammo box. It's crazy looking.
This is the one time that I wish that I wasn't on the show, because damn, that's like the exact game that I was looking for.
It's real good. It's a great management survival first-person shooter with a lot of RPG elements. Like I said, I put like 20 hours into this game 6 months ago.
Like, bits aside, I have seen this game. This game looks dope. I would play this game even if they weren't paying us to talk about it.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty cool. Yeah,
it's sick. Thank you guys. Thank you over at Chernobylite for sponsoring this episode, and everybody go over to twitter.com/ChilluminatiPod and let us know if you want that giveaway, and go check out Chernobylite on Steam, PS5, Xbox Series X and S. It's all yours to have. Thank you guys so much, and thank you again, Chernobylite. Bye. We're just going to cut it there, yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati Podcast, episode 150. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by the Kirk and Spock of LA, Jesse and Alex.
Okay.
You can react to that live in a minute, because there's somebody much more important here than you are. Also joining us today for the special episode 150, none other than Pat Contri, host, writer, and director of shows like PatTheNESPunk, Flea Market Madness, The Video Game Years, Not So Common, the Completely Unnecessary Podcast, and the writer and publisher of a certain Ultimate Nintendo guidebook or two, which you might have in your coffee table right now, depending on how much you love classic Nintendo. Or I guess in television, Amico. Pat, welcome to the show.
That was arguably the best intro anyone's ever given me. And
I'm taking full credit for it. Thank you.
I do not appreciate that much love. I will not point out you missed out on a few of my accolades, but that's okay.
I'm not taking credit for it anymore. Alex wrote it.
Okay.
I gave him just the hits, Pat. I just gave him the hits.
That's oh god. That can't all fit on my tombstone. I think all that if I pass away tomorrow.
If you're rich enough,
I guess so. If I got a mausoleum, I'd be good.
I gave you that Sean Evans treatment.
Yeah.
But we are here today on the Chilluminati Pod. Pat, welcome to this zone. Pot, also welcome to the zone. But Pat, also
very
welcome. How you doing, man?
I'm fantastic. I did not know this was the heralded 150th. I feel pressure to outperform my low standards.
I'll be honest, I had no idea either. I found that out about 5 minutes ago.
That's how much we paid attention.
Isn't that amazing when you get to a number like that? We just passed the 300th CU podcast like about 12 weeks ago or so. And I never would have thought when we started the podcast almost 9 years ago that it would still be going. It's strange.
It always lands for me like on a weird one when somebody's like, "Yo, episode 106," and you're like, "Damn, we are like after 100. What the hell? Like, how do we do?"
Yeah. It's always wild. I can't believe we've made it this far too, but I'm so happy we're here.
Yeah, feels good.
Alex, Jesse's baffled. That's all. That's all how he feels about the whole thing.
I'm still thinking about who is Spock and who is Kirk. It's worrying to me because I'm not sure which one.
I'm a red shirt then? Does that make me just kill me off?
You're a red shirt.
Okay.
That's fine.
But even though Mathis is literally wearing a red shirt right now.
Yeah.
And also, who are you on the crew, Mathis, in your own brain?
I'll be Sulu.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
I try to navigate us.
Maybe
you know
you're
what I mean?
like the ambassador, Pat. Like maybe you're like that episode, like
go.
the guy that rolls in and is like, on our planet, we eat a flower every time that it's time to decide the new president, and then you have to go. You're like the guest. Yeah,
I'm the Romulan ambassador on Deep Space Nine that gets killed off by Cisco.
That's pretty bad.
I'm glad you went Deep Space Nine because I was like, which part of the lore are we in right now? Yeah. All right. That's fine.
We're flying all over the place.
Not enough love for Deep Space Nine. Not enough love for that.
I love Deep Space Nine.
I believe you'll find that the Super Beard Bros are currently knee deep into our Let's Play of Deep Space Nine Super Nintendo.
I'm so sorry.
Which people literally are having to pay us to play.
Why do you think I brought it up? I knew that was happening. Obviously.
There you go. Bing, bing, bing.
That game's terrible.
But yeah, so before we get into the topic that I prepared for you this week, something which I chose because I wanted for you to be able to experience this thing for yourself if you so chose, Pat, in the future. I wanted to, before we get into that, I wanted to ask you the question that we always ask our guests, which is, where do you stand on the paranormal? Are you a believer like Mathis is? Are you a skeptic like Jesse is? Or are you just along for the ride like me?
I think that's such a broad question because the paranormal can encapsulate so many things. It can encapsulate cryptids, the animals like Bigfoot. It can encapsulate ghosts in the afterlife. It can encapsulate psychic powers. It can, aliens and otherworldly creatures. And so I don't think you can just say, paranormal, yes or no, to be honest. Because there was one point in time that, for example, the panda was considered a monster. It wasn't discovered till the late 1800s, for example.
And honestly, they kind of are monsters. They won't even fuck each other.
Oh, okay. That's this sort of podcast. Okay.
But we go blue on here. I know all our branding is green, but we go blue.
I don't know. Thanks for being here.
This is not good for my brand anymore. I don't want to be associated with it.
Sorry.
I disavow. I'm going to tweet out right now. I disavow any appearance on Chilluminati podcast. No. I grew up in a house. I don't know how much time you got, but I grew up in a house that had ghosts. And I don't say that lightly. And we can go through all the stories if you want. But
I'm here to hear anything you are willing to tell us.
But from the ages, I will say of 4, my age of 4 until I was 24, 5 and moved out, I experienced things in my house. And everyone else in my family did. Even my father, who was a avowed skeptic of the things that we saw, even eventually admitted seeing and feeling things.
If you had to slap a number on it, like, what are we talking about?
How many experiences between all of us in the house? I'd say 8 to 10 at least.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
So it wasn't the sort of thing where you can say, the argument I always hear is like, well, you get gas leaks and maybe you hallucinate and you see things. And I'd be like, yeah, that would make sense if it all happened within like a week or two and there was like a gas leak. But these were things that happened over decades. Every so often, they weren't like in a pattern in like a group. They happened like every year or two, and everyone saw them. Who's texting me? Be quiet, phone. And these were all things that happened in one corner of the house, which happened to be, we'll just say the northwest corner, which happened to be where my room was, and the rec room near the furnace right next to it. That's where a lot of the things happened, unfortunately. So in my room, it always felt uneasy.
Well, wait, put us there. What kind of room are we talking about? What's my bedroom? But like, what kind of house you have? What's the vibe?
It's one of those split level houses that were, constructed after World War II. Like these were all built in like probably.
So it's got some history, but not like hundreds of years of history.
Oh, no. And New Jersey's very old, obviously. New Jersey has the privilege of being obviously one of the 13 colonies. So it's 300 to 400 years old. So you're going to have a lot of old stuff. So
something resembling some actual culture. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is, for example, a cemetery 200 yards away that's old. That's at least 200 years old. at least 250 years old, maybe. Where our neighborhood's built on, it used to be farmland 100 years ago. We know that. So there were people living there over 100 years ago. So you take that all into account. So there is some history.
All the elements of the stew.
Maybe not
together.
necessarily in the house itself, but in the general vicinity, there's enough going on. So about my room, though, as I grew older, it felt more and more uneasy, my room at night. I couldn't fall asleep. And I'm talking when I'm 9 years old. This is pre-X-Files, by the way.
And
so
the older you get, the creepier it feels.
Yeah,
which is like the opposite of usually how it goes.
Yes, I think there's something to be said for people getting in tune with their feelings and ESP potentially. There's like to some people a correlation between sort of psychic ability and being able to feel ghosts, if that makes sense. Yeah. So as I grew older, it became more and more uneasy for me to be in my room, even the rec room, which was adjacent south of my room. And as I got into like my early teens, like 12, 13, I always felt uneasy being alone at night. Even when I'm 14, 15, 16 years old, when I'm home from college, when I'm 18, 19.
Like rational mind already there, you're still afraid of it. It still has a bad vibe.
Not afraid, but uneasy. It's always literally the feeling I'm not alone. I am not alone here right now. And my sister always had the weird feeling as well. We always had that weird feeling going in tangent. We never explained it to each other though. So the only shower in the house is the room over to me to the west of my house. If you look at the top right corner, that's my room. There's a little hallway, then there's the bathroom, and basically the top center of the house. My sister was upstairs. She come down the stairs, and you have one of two directions to go in order to enter the bathroom. Enter past my room or enter past my parents' room on the west side. She never, ever, ever would leave the bathroom and go past my room. Something told her never to walk past my room towards that way.
It's an unconscious sort of intuition.
Just a weird feeling. And then when I got older, she told me a story. This is the first sort of ghost story that in the chronology. When I was about 3 or 4, she says, so that means my sister's 4 years older. She's about 7 or 8. We'll just say 8 years old about. She walked past my room and she saw my mom sort of like tending me like I was having a bad dream, like, like I was waking up, and said, oh, it's okay. It's okay. She walks past my room to the rec room. There's my mom sitting on the couch there. She turned back and whatever woman she thought was my mom was not there anymore.
Whoa. That's that Nuke's top 5 right there. That's that good stuff.
And my sister's not the type of person to make these things up. She's not. So that was like the first in the chronology. That story is linked to something that happened to me. It happened, I know that around the date is because it kind of happened when Superman died, which was late 92-ish, around there. That's
exactly right. Yeah.
And then when he comes back with his guns slamming, dude.
The guns wasn't until like next year.
Yeah.
A year and a half, with the long hair.
Yeah.
So when I was 12, this happened. I remember this being a Sunday morning because I remember I had trouble the whole next week. But the next day I had a shovel. I had to rake leaves in good old Jersey. So it was about, I want to say 5 a.m. Something startled me in my sleep. So my mom used to get up around 5 a.m. to feed the cat. Our cat Cuddles. The cat would meow. And so my mom would get up and tend to the cat, and then usually tuck me back in, even though I'm an older, mom, baby, they're sons. Yeah. So my mom, it would be typical for my mom to tuck me back in and go, like rearrange the blanket and then go on her way around 5:30 in the morning. So I was woken up from a dream or something. I was definitely fast asleep. Now, keep in mind, I had bad vision at this point. I was short-sighted. I needed glasses to see. So I'm turned over on my right side. I'll never forget this as long as I live. I feel someone sort of like touching the sheets next to me, other side, and that blanket. And I turned over to my other side, to my left side, and go, Mom, is that you? Thinking it was going to be my mom. And in my blurred vision, there was a white image of something. It was a white image, a head and like a body. And I froze and then threw the covers over my head. The first thing I thought was, oh my God, that's like an alien, because I was following alien abduction stuff. Right. And I threw the covers over my head. Man. Was terrified, petrified to leave my bed for like 3 hours, from like 5 to like 8 in the morning. I would not.
Yeah, I would be too.
I was, petrified to death. And then looking back years later, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I'm ever going to say ever. Oh, it made more rational sense that it was a ghost versus an alien in my room. But like, but being that
sometimes you got to make that call, man.
but the combination of my sister's story, the fact that it always felt weird around my room.
That's what I was going to say. Which one came first?
Thank you to Policy Genius for sponsoring this episode. And listen, we all know being an adult is really annoying. And when it comes to insurance, making sure you're getting the best deal out of all the insurances out there is even more annoying and part of being an adult. But that's where Policy Genius comes in. When you're buying a home, you've got a lot to juggle, and Policy Genius makes it easy to get insurance quotes from top companies so you can find your lowest price fast. With home and auto insurance rates on the rise industry-wide, it's also a great time to make sure you're not overpaying for coverage. Policy Genius is your one-stop shop to find and buy the insurance that you need. All you gotta do is click the link in the description to policygenius.com and simply answer a few questions. Policy Genius will show you price estimates for policies that fit your search. The Policy Genius team can look for ways to save you more money, and if you like what they find, they'll get you switched over for free. And customers who have bundled their home and auto policies with Policy Genius saved an average of $1,250 per year over what they were paying before. The Policy Genius teams work for you without bias or favor to any one insurance company. Even after you're covered, Policy Genius offers claim support and easy reshopping to find savings when it's time to renew. Head to policygenius.com to get your free home insurance quotes and see how much you could save.
Did you already know about the figure over you? But when you
my sister had not told me it by that point.
But maybe it had already happened, but you didn't know about it.
Yeah, it had happened when she said like 3 or 4.
Right.
So piggybacking on stuff that happened around my room, trying to go in order because there's like 2 or 3 more things. I remember I was playing either Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball or Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo. In my room, I had my CRT monitor, which still exists, which was from an IBM XT in 1985. And I was playing a Super Nintendo game. My door was fully closed. My sister opens up my door, and I'm like, at this point, like 14 years old. Opens my door. Patrick, did you just walk into your room? And I'm like, no, I've been playing like whatever, Ken Griffey Jr. or Silly Cup Hoppy here. She said, I just saw someone walk into your room. Like that. Like
that's
just
the
like
weirdest
that.
shit ever. Yeah.
And I'm like, not me. So that was another story. Fast forward. I'm in college now. I'm home from college. I believe it must be a summer. I'm probably about 21, we'll just say. And there's things that happen in between, but these are my highlights, not the stuff the other people saw besides my sister's story.
Right.
I'm 21 years old. I'm at the kitchen table. We have a galley kitchen, which is like a hallway kitchen, basically, to the right where I'm sitting. And past the galley kitchen is, we'll just say, the northwest corner of the house with the rec room, with the furnace, and then my room. And I was eating a sandwich, and this wasn't a corner of your eye thing. I remember being turned, looking down the galley kitchen, and I see this white boot, just a white boot, take a full step from in front of the furnace towards the rec room out of my vision. It took a full step, plain as day.
You were staring at it. And
for some reason, something told me to look in that direction, but it wasn't corner of the eye stuff. It was literally looking that direction. And I saw a natural stepping motion of this white boot. And talking to my mom about that, she said, oh, yeah, I've seen that.
I've seen that.
See, that's cool, though, that you can have somebody that can verify the shit that you've seen.
But then my mom said something, I remember to the effect of, oh, yeah, I've seen that, but I've seen like more of it. I've seen the form of like a person. She described it as a man who probably could have existed in the early 1900s. But she said, I've seen the boot attached to something.
Like a dapper gentleman? Like an ice cream shop soda jerk, man?
I don't know what sort of short boots were worn in the early 1900s. I wasn't
Yonkers
around.
Vibes. Yeah.
I'm going to ask some questions now.
I got more, but you go first. I got another.
You go then. I want to hear more because maybe you'll answer the questions I had.
Okay, so that between that and my mom she's seen that thing. I'm like, okay, that's one of those the same. We've seen the same thing, but that may not be the person or woman, the woman that my sister saw. That was like my guardian angel sort of thing. That's how my sister kind of described it, which
not a scary thing,
which could have been the same thing I saw when I was 12 years old. That could have been the same thing. This boot thing could have been something totally different. The fact of though is that you have all these things happening I came back from vacation. This is another good story. I went to the Mayan Riviera and bought one of those Mayan sun calendars.
Okay.
God, this was.
I have one of those too. I know exactly what you're talking about.
The world didn't end, so it's useless, right?
Yeah.
Now it's a collector's item.
What did those Mayans know? Anyway, so I bought that when I was 27 and brought it home. This was after I moved out when I was 26. So I brought it home. My mom put it on the shelf. It has one of those heavy metal backings where it's like shaped like a half U. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was a nail on there. One day, my mom finds it off the nail against the wall, but not flipped down. It's standing against the wall. The nail is still in the wall.
So there's just no way it could have
if it fell, the nail would have fallen out.
Right.
The calendar would have been flipped down. Those are heavy, Jesse. You know, those things weigh like 10, 15 pounds.
Yeah.
They're stone. So the only way it could have happened, unless my mom's lying, someone lifted it up, pulled it out, and then placed it near the ground against the wall.
Pretty
That's the only
compelling.
explanation.
Yeah, pretty creepy stuff.
We had other stuff happen. My mom said where like glasses fell. I think that only happened a couple of times where like you'd be in the other room and a glass fell off the counter in the kitchen. I was never around for that. My mom said that and I believe her. Then the last thing that happened, this was literally, it's like a going away party for the ghost or ghosts. So this would be 26. I'm packing up my clothes. I'm moving into my little garden apartment. So I'm in my room. Still feel weird in my room, but this is during the day now. This is during the day, not at night. It's pure light outside. I'm in my closet. My door's open to my room. I'm just like packing things up. Something told me, this is again about looking to the side. Something told me to look outside my room and look down the hallway past where the bathroom is. We're still in the north edge of the house.
Felt like some sort of
an urge.
Hey, Pat, you're folding up a jogging suit your aunt gave you when you were 8 that you never wore. Why don't you look outside your room? And I did that, and I saw a black form. It was as if like you were 4 years old and you drew a person, but didn't know how to draw like hands and feet, but you knew how to draw like a square and a square for a head. That's what it looked like a shadow form. And it was about, I want to say
Slender Man.
It was about 7 feet tall. It was about where the hamper is. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. When I saw it, it knew I saw it because it got caught. It did a jerk. It did like a jerk. It jerked and then it shot away. Like the form shot away.
Like you gave it like a little start.
I gave it I startled this thing.
Yeah.
I startled it. Like it didn't expect me to be there at that point in time.
Yeah.
And then it shot down the hallway. Out of my view, the part of the hallway where I couldn't see past my parents' room. And then so I walked past it and I wasn't even scared. I'm just like, oh, I just saw a ghost. I mean, what are you going to do?
You said The Shining.
I walked into the living room and I said, my mom was there. I said, Mom, did you just see something there? She said, no, I didn't see anything. So I just saw a ghost. It wasn't a reflection from a car outside. It was a form of something. Yeah. And so I jokingly said to my parents when they sold the house about 5-6 years ago, did you tell the people moving in that it might be haunted? They said, no, we didn't say that. And I was like, well,
I would love to catch up with them somehow. I know that's creepy now to do that, but it'd be cool for them to be like, yo, we saw this foot go up these steps.
And I know this is like a placebo sort of thing, or this isn't scientific, but I never have felt the way I felt in my house when I lived in my garden apartment, when I moved out to San Diego and got my condo, when I moved to my house, never felt that way again. And even when I was still in Jersey and would visit and come back, or when I came back a couple times when I was in San Diego for Christmas, you'd feel that weird way again when you were alone. In that you just didn't want to be alone. That's all I can say. You just don't want to be alone. And not that someone's going to attack you, but you just feel weird.
Yeah, I have a similar thing where there was one infamous dinner where my whole family admitted to each other where we saw all the same ghosts in the same house. There's something like my grandmother's house, like my family home. It's real creepy. It's real. Sometimes you go down in the basement and there's it makes you look a certain direction. I know exactly what you're talking about. Places that you just feel are the wrong place to be. Yeah, yes. I know that vibe. Yeah.
And I don't think everyone can feel that. I think you have to be in tune to it. I think you have to be open to it. I think it's a certain type of either personality or mind, because like I said, my father for years and years was like, nah, you guys are crazy. Then one day it's like, oh, okay, I might have seen something. So like either he was not turned on to it. It was like he was like tuned out to that wavelength, so to speak, or eventually he just overcame his skepticism and said, okay, I saw something too.
Did you ever do like a history look? You know what I mean?
No, I think we were the second family to live in that house because they would have moved in like when I was like 1 or 2, like 81, 82. And then they were the second owners from the first people that probably got it when it was constructed or whatever. Like, let's just say mid to late 50s. That's probably what happened.
I'd love to go back like 300 years and see what was cracking on that spot. I would love to see.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Guy walking up the stairs. You know what I mean?
I was gonna like one of the questions I was gonna ask was like, did it ever react to your presence? But your very last story like gave that answer. It was just like, did it ever seem aware of you?
Well, yeah, like, well, definitely. I guess whatever was hovering over my bed, whatever that woman was, I think, like was like sentient enough that we interacted. I guess now I'm trying to figure out how many more times she might have been hovering over my bed.
Well, here's like an esoteric question. This is like, you got to follow me on this question a little bit, but like, I know some people talk about, like, I always watch like people talking about hauntings, like people who work at like a museum that's old or something like that. And they always like say like, I get that. I know when it's this person. I know when it's this ghost. Like, do you feel that the stairs or the hallway or the person over you are related in any way? Do they have a similar vibe to them? You know what I mean?
Was that a question to me?
Yeah.
Do I feel like they're related?
Like, do you feel like, oh, like these were all the same type of creature, the same type of encounter? Like, do they give you the same feeling?
No, just because like I said, I think the woman was one thing. Whatever the man with the boot was another thing. And whatever form I saw was something else.
Like, would you go so far as to label them as things like for like ghost, angel, demon type labels?
No, I don't go that far. I don't pretend to know I go as far as saying it's some sort of energy that's still around, that's hovering around. And I think when you talk to ghost experts, there's like different types. There's like, what's the one type? It's like a video that repeats in a
residual haunting. Yeah.
Residual haunting. So to me, like the boot thing could have been residual,
especially since your mom like saw it the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She said, oh, I saw the boot. She said, like, I saw the boot. And I'm like, oh, so you saw the same thing? The boot. We call it the boot now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like an echo. So there's that thing. There's the maybe it was a past relative hovering over me. Maybe my great grandmother. Because I think at the time my one grandmother was still alive and the other one didn't die till 20 years later. And then there's that form I saw that was something else entirely. So maybe it was like one of those things where like energy vortex that was around my house in that corner of the house where I happened to try to sleep at night.
What about like human or not human?
Oh, I think it'd have to be human.
The one that saw you?
Yes.
It felt like a human presence.
What else gets startled like that? Like,
well, I mean, I don't know, like a freaking, like some cultures believe in like some type of spirits or like, little. Well,
I guess you anthropomorphize like almost by default things that you have encounter in your life, right?
Yeah. But it didn't have like a creaturely vibe to it.
It had the general form of a human.
Yeah. Okay.
The general form.
Vibes.
As in like.
Yeah, like a elementary school drawing of a person. Yeah.
Yes.
I got you. Yeah.
But all like a shadow form. So yeah. So it's like if maybe there's something out there that's like a realm guardian that I caught. I don't know.
That's Mathis's favorite theory is like being like, what if it's another dimension? Well,
yeah, I mean I go into that's more aliens for me.
But anything, who's to say that's not an alien encounter?
There's that
in
fun
that case? Theory
too. Is like scientifically kind of hard to make happen, but maybe they're not ghosts. Maybe it's just a weird slip in the time where you're just interacting with other people that far back in time. And they're just as scared thinking that maybe they're seeing something really fucking weird for a brief moment.
Like the time traveling computer messages.
Yeah. Maybe they, it's literally,
what?
That's a whole topic.
We're going to gloss over time traveling computer messages.
There was just this great story about this house, and they had this computer, and they were like communicating with somebody from like the 1600s or something like that through this computer.
Jesse, should I not bring this up? Is this going down a wormhole again?
It's just a fascinating story that ends insanely, but like It's oh yeah, it is a whole.
I go through a lot of trouble to find
episode.
these weird stories. Yeah, but who knows? Who knows? That's kind of my vibe. Who knows?
So let me ask you, Alex, what drew you to wanting to learn about paranormal things? Was it because you experienced the things when you were a child, or something else?
I think it's cool more than anything. Like
cool.
I'm like a big student of like, I went to school for like 7 or 8 years as an English major, English student. And I love like breaking down cultural mythology, and like, I love like anthropology. And I just love the idea of like what we're experiencing that's not the norm. It's interesting to me.
Anthro was one of my majors.
Yeah, there you go. See, and I feel like it's a common thing that people have, is like this sort of, there's like a tingly feeling that you get when you think about like aliens and ghosts and all that kind of weird stuff, weird teleportation, Philadelphia experiment type stuff, all the weird forbidden stuff that you want to think about at 2 a.m. when you've had a couple joints and a McDonald's burger. You know what I mean? Like, just that type of stuff has a feeling to it that's very exciting, especially if you're an American person. I think there's like a sort of connection to our culture of like paranoia and just like the idea that the government knows about all this stuff that we don't know about, and just that there's more to reality than we are told there is.
You think the government knows about ghosts, or just talking about it like aliens?
It's just a general sense. You know what I mean? It's just a general
Aliens
sense.
for me.
So
I'm
then
not trying to go.
So the
like,
X-Files must be your favorite show of all time, then. Like, it must be.
I think it's one of the best TV shows ever made. I think it's like super good. But I don't know. Like, I just love, like, I think really what it was, if I'm going to try and like pin it to like one experience, it was that my grandma was like a big Reader's Digest buyer. And she'd buy these like books that were like the kooky experiences of the insane and twisted. And it would have like 1,000 like little like encyclopedia sized articles about stuff. And I would just read it cover to cover. Like, I used to live with my grandma. I would read that shit cover to cover. I'd read Tom Clancy's Net Force and then like a fucking paranormal book from the 70s.
So did you subscribe to Time Life's Mysteries of the Unknown, that famous series of books?
I never subscribed, but like, I used to go shopping at the Goodwill all the time. And anytime I could get anything like that, I would grab it. Or like one of those like travel books, like from that you buy at like the train station, that's like all got the same design for like every city in America. That's like Ghosts of Houston, like all those things. I love those. I buy them everywhere that I go.
Well, you can buy the entire Time Life Mysteries of the Unknown on eBay. It looks like for $100.
Dude, that's not bad. That's not bad.
All 14 hardcover books.
Yeah.
That includes, or excuse me, there's 24 of them. Do you want me to run down the topics? there's a lot in here.
I just love stuff that feels a little bit like a relic. I love stuff that feels like primary sourcey. I just love that. Like, my brother got me a bunch of those like 60s UFO magazines that they like were like independently printed in like very small,
like newsletters, you mean?
Like local ones, like stapled. Wow. Yeah. And I they're like in perfect condition from like 1968. And they're just so fun to just like flip through. And I just read like a big long article that's like real chunky every once in a while. I should do an episode on them, actually.
Do you know there used to be, the guy from Ancient Aliens, Giorgio Petalucas, whatever his name is, with the big hair.
That guy, yeah.
He used to run in California. Not a good name. UFO Con. That was the name. Con.
The big UFO Con in California.
Yeah, every year. They used to have it, I guess, before the pandemic. So I was wondering if you would go to that, or would you be interested in going to something like that? Listen to like speakers and panelists.
I gotta admit that I would be not 100% earnest in my attendance, but you better believe that I would go.
A better one to go to is Dragon Con, because Dragon Con has multiple tracks. So like, there's the cosplay and the video games and the nerdy stuff, but then there is also one track that is paranormal.
Oh,
and let me tell you, it is one of the best things I've ever done. I went and did that, and we saw a panel about ghosts and what ghosts really are. And then a person stood up when asking questions and said that they used to have a ghost that would fold their laundry and that their aunt had their head cut off and heart eaten. And everyone was like, what? And the host was like, all right, well, that's it for the panel. Thanks, everybody. And we were like, is no one going to talk about that? And no one did. And I'll never know.
There's something amazing. Like, dude, okay.
And that's our mid-roll ad right there for Dragon Con, September 1st to September 5th.
It's a wonderful convention.
In Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
Right there.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like last time we did a live show, which was like in October, we kind of had time at the end to have people come up and talk to us for a little bit. And this one dude showed me this amazing ghost photographs that blew my mind. And that to me is worth it. I don't care if it's real that much. I just am attracted to the fact that somebody has that on their phone. I just want to see it. I don't need an explanation. I'm like Mulder, but then he did ayahuasca and then he realized that he just can believe if he wants to. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't know.
Are we disappointed that we're about 13 years into the existence of smartphones and having awesome cell phone cameras that we don't really have good UFO photos and videos off of?
That's why I'm convinced that's why I'm the skeptic. That's why I think it's all BS.
It's all of it, Jesse.
Okay,
Jesse, all of it. Even though now the Pentagon is coming out and saying we don't know what the hell this stuff is. The past few years, we will see.
Here's the thing. I'm waiting. I, for one, would be very excited. I welcome our alien overlords. Still don't see any evidence that we're going to get them anytime soon. I don't see it.
Well, this is what Frank says. Frank is, Alex knows Frank. Frank is a Jersey hippie.
He's a fan favorite. Yeah.
He's a fan favorite.
He's a cult influencer.
Frank has very sage advice when it comes to aliens. And he says this. You got to listen to the military guys because those are guys that are straight laced, narrow ass, and they got no reason to lie about it because it can ruin their careers. And he's 100% right.
Yeah.
So when you have astronauts saying they've seen things, military pilots saying they've seen things, that's what you believe. And the airline pilots have seen stuff like the Japanese flight was going towards Alaska, where they saw something outside their airplane for half the trip or whatever.
That's
in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
so
I do.
Those are the stories you focus on, not some jerk off down in the sticks that sees swamp gas. You focus on the professionals that train their whole lives. And if they lie about something, their careers are gone. Those are the people you believe, the people that have no incentive to lie about or to make up stories.
Yeah, and
doesn't mean they can't be wrong, but you go with the odds.
Yeah.
My pushback to that would be a military person would equally say that we don't know what that is. If it is something that's a foreign adversary in our airspace and we can't stop them, that kind of thing, they would equally say we don't know what that is, just because it would be very unnerving to be an enemy of ours flies around above us whenever the hell they want. You know what I mean? That could equally be the same.
It could be, but this is what I'm going to say to that. Most governments in the world say, yeah, there's stuff out there. We don't know what it is. For some reason, the U.S. is one of the ones, because obviously we're so far ahead in terms of military tech. Well, estimates are between 10 and 15 years ahead, maybe 20 years ahead of the second place, which could probably be China. That it's not in our interest to say we don't know what this is, because we're supposed to know what everything is, if that makes sense.
Agreed. Completely agreed that we're supposed to, right? But
yeah,
I would be thrilled. I'm one of those people, if I was proved tomorrow, if an alien showed up, I'd be like, got me.
So when you see the military videos showing these things descending into the ocean, literally, 20 miles off the coast of San Diego out here, this stuff happened multiple times. You're just they're lying, or it could be something else.
No, I mean, I don't think they're lying. I just think it's fascinating footage, and I think it's super interesting.
It seems so real, the acting on it.
I'm not going to jump on the immediate train of Alex and Mathis, which is it's aliens. I'm like,
I'm not. It's aliens. I just think it's
something.
exciting.
It's something we don't know what it is that's acting with intelligence. You want to call that aliens or whatever else?
I'm even more. In some ways, I'm even more open to the idea that they're not necessarily from outer space, but are under the fucking water.
I'm open to that because so much of the ocean floor, we don't know what the hell's down there.
Yeah, you're right. But I'm always trying to look for the scientific explanation for everything. And that's so when we talk about ghosts or whatever, I'm always thinking all right, well, what else could that have been? That kind of stuff. But if a ghost showed up, it was Jesse, what up, bro? I'd be like, My man. I would, I'd be fine with it. I'd be
you want to go
excited
towards
to be
it.
proven
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
Okay, so Jesse, so you have never experienced anything close to what I talked about in terms of any feelings of ghosts or
I 100%, I'm sure in my life have seen something or like something like caught in my eye. I'm almost positive. I would be lying if I said I didn't think that. But I don't, to me, it's immediately written off as not being like, oh, that wasn't a ghost. That was like a trick of the light. Or that was like, oh, I am tired. That was something, like a great example is, let me see if I can, I'll tell you about it. Let me see if I can find it while I tell you. There was a TikTok that I saw. Oh boy, TikTok. There was a TikTok that I saw, which was about a guy who was saying, hey, it was just like him in the bottom third. And he was like, hey, up above there are celebrities on either side of the screen. And they're just going to cycle through the celebrities. But in the middle of the screen is a plus sign. Stare at the plus sign. Don't look at the celebrities. You know what these people look like. Just stare at the plus sign. And as you stare at the plus sign, because the celebrities in your periphery, they slowly start to warp and they look like monsters, but like they look creepy as hell. And it's that kind of thing where like, well, you caught something and it looked weird. And so I've definitely probably have seen things. I know people who are like, yeah, no, I saw a ghost. I'm like, all right,
brain just
I'm not going to
doesn't
tell
go
you
there.
didn't. Like maybe you did. And maybe that's the time where I get proven wrong. But like me personally, I got nothing.
we're going to get into some psychological territory here, and I apologize, Jesse. I don't know much about you personally.
Sure.
But this is something when I was in college, I was talking about to my anthropology professors, about cryptids, about the possibility that there's still stuff out there, which every year we still find stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just found a new version of a fucking, a small chimpanzee, like in the last 5 years. Like another like offshoot, didn't they? Somewhere in Africa.
I mean, anyway, if they didn't or not, that kind of thing happens like literally like
happens.
every couple
They're
days.
still discovering insects every single day. So like
we're still discovering mammals, though. That's the thing. Larger mammals. That's what's fascinating to me. Besides reptiles and amphibians, whatever else on the scale.
There's birds, missing. Right? Yeah.
So the point is this. So I was bringing up a conversation about Bigfoot. It's a large swath of area. A lot of it's unexplored. There's not a lot of people in the Northwest, talking from Northern California up to Alaska, this whole path. Right. And I brought that up and not to be insulting, but one of my professors said, does it make you feel more interesting that these things could exist? Like your life is more interesting. And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously, but that may not be a main motivation for me, but in this respect. So in that respect, the opposite. To some people that are skeptics, are they afraid that there's things out there they don't know everything about? They have less control over their lives because there are things that exist that they don't have a handle on. That's the other sort of side of that coin. I'm not saying Jesse falls under that, but I think there's definitely skeptics that they want to feel that they know everything that exists or have a feel of it, because if they don't, now the world's a little less organized. Maybe it's a little more scary. That's more
falls into a similar category of the people who believe in like some of like conspiracy theory nuts, because they also need that control. And so
I would say the idea of it's aliens or it's ghosts or whatever is the necessity that we all as people have, that to put things in like everything has a purpose. So like this weird thing that happened, it was caused by this or this. So like, I mean, personally, I am a like willing participant in the idea of like there could be a million things we don't know, and because I love just science in general, I understand that one of the key tenets of philosophy is like understanding you don't know nothing, right? The whole idea, like the more you know, the less you know. So I'm totally open to it. I just think that like the thing that is to me is the more we look and the more we deep dive into like, I don't know, chupacabra, any cryptid, whatever, is a lot of the time it ends up just seeming like a modern day mythology that a group of people have decided is what happened based on micro accounts of things, and then created a story, and that story becomes the legend, and then it just grows. And a lot of the time when you look at like the origins of things, it really is just like keeping your kids scared so they don't go after dark.
Hey, but like,
go out like don't go near the water at night or else the lady will get you, like that kind of thing. And I'm totally cool with the idea that like Could there be a lady who grabs you at night in the lake? Maybe. But also, it's probably more likely that at night they don't want their kids going down by the lake to get to drown. And both are fine because they're both neat stories.
You brought up, actually, a lot of things came to my head at once because my mind kind of sort of ping pongs. Sure. You'll find that out if you haven't already. You talked about like small accounts building up to a mythology and a legend. What was one of the greatest, or one of the first, we'll say, modern conspiracies was the JFK assassination, which is like 60 years ago next year.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And that sort of probably started the whole modern conspiracy push. And it comes down to the fact that a lot of people don't want to believe that a lone gunman just happened to kill the most powerful person on the planet.
Right.
Like that's part of it. And you can build around, well, magic bullet or this and that, but they still can't wrap their minds around this guy just went out and fired off 3 shots and killed the president. Like that's basically what it comes down to. And even Frank, someone intelligent, you know, I taught them about it. I was like, listen, Frank, this guy was a Marine. He was a sharpshooter. All Marines are trained to be marksmen. You have to have a degree of marksmanship to be a Marine. He made the shot, Frank. You may not want to admit it, but he made the shot. I talked to my friend who's Marine. He's like, oh yeah, that's a doable shot. It's not an easy shot, but it's a doable shot to do that. And that's what it comes down to is like, you don't want to maybe admit the world is the way it is. And then you get that, you know, those loose change documentary, you're going to call it that, those pieces of trash that don't want to admit that, yeah, a bunch of Saudis just conspired to bring down the towers. Like,
yeah. I mean, but also like, you know, aside from the like fear motivation, right? Like there is a difference between like facts and like perception too. Like, for example, like you had the experiences that you had in the northwest corner of your house by the, you know, the little rooms, and like you saw all these things that you saw.
Northeast. I got my east and west.
Well, I'm just going off, you know, what I got. I'm just a journalist. I'm just a journalist, man. I just go off the facts, man.
East, you're west.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, well, yeah. So we're on the West Coast, so it's opposite. So that makes sense. Sure. And like, you know, like I don't know, like you saw those things. They affected your perception of reality in some way. Like you definitely like know that you saw them, and it's like you're comfortable with the fact that you saw them. But you probably also don't live with the implications of that hanging over your head 24/7, 365 as you exist in the physical world as we know it, based on thousands of years of science and research, right? So it's this sort of like, there's this spiritual world, right? Like, I mean, back in the day, people think about it a lot easier as something that people were willing to do because they sort of have a romanticized version of like these people that are like under civilized people from a time before we have all the systems and information that we have now, you know, people from thousands of years ago, and how easy it is for them to cross over into the idea of like the spirit realm and things that happen that don't happen. You know what I mean? It's like a wild thing that we all just kind of like take for granted, is that there's this other world where stuff that doesn't happen. And we're still just in that, and we're still wrestling with that in the same way that created religion in the first place, I think, in the modern world. Like we're not getting like remarkably smarter than people, you know, 1,000 years ago. There's not like a huge amount of brain evolution in terms of our capacity for reasoning in that time. And so despite everything that we do to explain the world around us, sometimes our stupid monkey brains still just have to make a little story picture myth for ourselves to explain things that happen, just so that we don't lose our minds or like go into like fight or flight mode too, you know? So fear is one thing, but also just like your brain kind of like does it without you thinking about it anyway. It makes up little, you know, conspiracy theories.
Well,
about
everything is like a little story in reality. Just the fact that like I can sit here and be like, well, obviously, because this scientist said there are multiple dimensions theoretically, that there could be other Jessies out there. Like that's as plausible as the ghost realm. You know what I mean? Like that is, it's like
literally just a comic book concept from 50 years ago that might be real now.
It's plausible. I would love to visit a ghost town and or alternate reality. I would be fine with either. I'd be happy to be there. Just like, what's going on?
I look at a lot of these things as just things we don't have the tools to measure yet.
Science we don't understand.
Yeah, we don't have the tools to measure. At one point in time, we had no idea that magnetism existed as humans. We had no idea there was a literally an invisible force that pulled and pushed things.
Yeah.
But now we know about it. So maybe we get to the point where you want to call it extra dimensional, you want to call it interdimensional, but maybe it comes to a point where, oh yeah, there's a weird wavelength that we're on in the universe, and there's another one that's slightly off, and that's something else.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is, and that's it. And at some point in time, maybe 1,000 years from now, that'll be accepted. Maybe we'll be able to tune into it. Yeah. And like peer into it like through a peephole. But now we can't do that, and the energy slips in. And I think that's not crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
I'm with you.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah, because that alone, obviously for ghosts too, but that's a huge realm in the alien world as well. Is that if they're not just physical beings from another world, they may be from this, like you said, slightly off other dimension, and they need to use us to like get pulled into our world for whatever reason, and that's why people's abduction scenarios are always really the same in very particular ways.
Now you're stretching.
I'm going to go with Jesse. I'm actually in Jesse's side. I think you're stretching this sort of going to the abduction thing.
This is how it is in the alien world.
And you were like, come with me.
I'm not going that
all the way
direction.
to the psychic side of the alien world. They got to drag you along through the open portal.
I'm more in the fact that they're mole men that are living underwater in the earth. Like that to me is the
I think I read
if
that
they are
issue.
physical beings, I think they're definitely on our planet. It's more plausible that they're from our planet than they are from somewhere else.
The best evidence we have, military release videos from fighter jets showing these things going into the water.
I just wish we had again, better anything. The world we live in with our smart cameras and phones, like even that video footage of it, it's always the crosshairs and the grainy screen and then like zip and the thing happens and it looks compelling. You're like, what was that? And the question is, we're always saying, what was that? And no one's like, well, we figured it out. And that sucks. I want to know the answer. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the alien ship's going to let the F-16 get that close to it in order to get
not? What are you hiding, aliens? What do you got to hide?
What do you hide?
Do you think they're manned? They could just be probes of some sort, just controlled elsewhere. There is nothing living in there at all.
I just think
it'd just be something machine.
I just think first of all, they got leaked originally, and then the Pentagon then was it next year? It's like, oh yeah, these things are real. Like these are video from our crafts, from our pilots. You can't deny it anymore. It is what it is.
It's real.
It's whatever it is. It's real. It's on there.
It's legit.
It's getting tracked by multiple pieces of radar. It's on video. It's there. We're not saying what it is, but it's there, and we don't know what it is.
It's really footage from a military vehicle. That's what
showing
they're saying.
something.
Yeah.
Showing something.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is, but it's on a bird.
Yes.
It's moving too quickly, and
I mean,
that's fascinating to me.
It could be a bird if you account for like parallax. You know what? I don't even want to get into that. Point is, if you want to take
scrolling. What?
Yeah. Actually, like if you think about, if you want to take the big bong rip though, if you want to think about what's real and you want to think about what's real and what's fake, and you want to talk about infinite universes being like on the menu, like as something that's possibly true, right? Then if any reality is possible, then there really isn't a difference. Like when you read a conspiracy theory or you read something that's written, theoretically there's a reality where it's true and there's a reality where it isn't anyway, even for like Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like
are you telling me that there's a galaxy far, far away? Is that what you're trying to tell me right now?
If infinite realities are possible, there is no line between reality and fiction. Which is like a weird.
The realities are all restricted by the same physics.
It just breaks down. It just breaks down the fact that like there's no way for us to tell.
Now we're like one joint away from a good time. Is
this all part of your outline for the episode, Alex?
We are not. The episode outline is gone somewhere.
Is that where we're at?
That's where I'm getting to. But if you're speaking of my outline for this episode, the next thing that it tells me to do is to promote patreon.com/Chilluminati Pod, the finest.
That 45-50-minute Patreon.
Well, we got to do it,
baby.
Well, now we're going from the intro to the main episode, so it's this is the time when we do the Patreon.
Good job, my man. Good job,
Alex. What can I get at patreon.com/Chilluminati?
Not only can you get these episodes without any ads, except for this one, you can also get the mini-sodes, which come out every time we put out an episode. You get 15 more minutes an episode, and it's great. It's great. I'll tell you right now, Jesse sent us the link to that TikTok. I'm going to do it on the mini-sode. I'm going to do the TikTok. I'm going to look at the celebrity. I'm going to look at the plus sign.
I'm going to let you know we should do that on the minisode because it'll blow your mind.
It's
I want
happening.
all three of you to be like,
yeah, we're going to do it. And everybody's going to read the news. It's going to be great. And there's like 40 of those or 30 of those. I don't even know how many there are. There's a lot. You get art. You get pre-sale stuff. You get merch. You get all kinds of incredible stuff. Mel, she's a fucking peach. She draws the best stuff. Go get it on the patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, the finest website. That sentence did not make grammatical sense. Anyway,
I'm sold. Oh, it's Chilluminati Pod. I'm sorry.
You have one more thing to shill still, Alex. It's very important.
I do. And that is because in 1 month's time, a little bit over 1 month's time, we're going to be in Austin, Texas. It's a great place that I like to visit, and I'm excited to go there. And we're going to be doing a show on May 26th. And it's going to be a great time. And there's tickets still available. There's only 2 VIP tickets available. So you better grab one if you're thinking about doing it.
For you, someone you love or hate,
and if you're on the fence, come have a beer with us. Go get a ticket. Come watch the show. It'll be a good time. There's a bar in the venue. I'm going to drink. You're going to drink. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be funny. Mathis will get up and move around more than you expect him to. He gets the energy of like...
I'll get fed up with the 2 of them and like
that's my goal.
Go get a drink halfway through the show. It'll be great.
Is to achieve what I did last show, is make walk Jesse so frustrated he walks off stage.
What is happening today? Make walk Jesse.
What? Make walk Jesse. Make Jesse walk off stage just from being so frustrated.
And where can I get those tickets, Alex?
ChilluminatiPod.com.
And like Alex said, free beers on him if you're on the fence. I don't know what you're going to
heard. That's what I heard.
If you're on the fence, I'll pay for your airfare.
You pay for my beer, and then we'll talk about it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'll give you a place to
decide to travel across the U.S. Was it a good decision? Here's a beer.
I'll drink every beer you hand me.
Thank you to Talkspace for sponsoring this episode. And spring has sprung, and for a lot of people, including me, it's time to do some spring cleaning. I like to do the deep spring cleaning. I just collect so much garbage over the course of the winter, and spring is the perfect time to kind of renew the area. There's something rejuvenating about getting down to what's essential and starting fresh. And that same thought goes for your mind. Over the years, thoughts and emotions can build up. That's why it's important to talk to someone who's trained to help you declutter your mental space. Talkspace therapists are available to message anytime you need, because you shouldn't have to watch your thoughts pile up until your next appointment rolls around. And I know it can be hard to take that first step. You want to put it off, tell yourself you're strong enough, or you can handle it yourself, it's no big deal. But that's what's great about Talkspace. They simply make it easy to get clarity and support from a licensed therapist anytime, on your phone, even through text. Your mental health is too important to rely on Dr. Google. With 24/7 text, audio, and video messaging, Talkspace lets you talk to a licensed therapist without needing an appointment. They have thousands of therapists across dozens of specialties. Once you match with your therapist, you can message them anytime, anywhere. Most importantly, Talkspace is private, secure, and accessible. It's everything you love about therapy without the stuff that gets in the way. If thoughts and emotions are piling up, a fresh perspective can help you feel better. Match with your dedicated therapist today at Talkspace.com and use our promo code CHILL during sign up to get $100 off your first month. That's $100 off at Talkspace.com, promo code CHILL.
No, that's not true. It's false advertising.
Wow, you guys,
false advertising.
You guys doing live dates with this. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I did spray lemon and like throw salt into my eyeball one time during a live show. So anything's possible. So come down and check it out.
Anything is possible.
Possible.
With so many realities, anythinging's possible. He could become Darth Vader halfway through the show. Yeah.
Alex could slip in human piss one more time.
It's happened before. At any moment during this episode, Darth Vader could arrive at my home and slice me up. It's true. Anything is possible.
Any moment.
In some universe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
why do you think Darth Vader comes to your house, though? Like, just a quick question.
Maybe
why
I'm special.
Why Darth Vader?
Maybe I'm special.
He needs a better wardrobe. I mean, I love Alex's shirts. I've always loved
in
it.
the Star
You're
Wars
just imagining
universe,
Darth Vader, but with an Alex shirt on?
Yes.
Where did you get that? And I'm like, Target, bro. And he's like, what? Are you serious? Target? It's like, you got to buy the one they got a lot of because nobody wants it. Oh, wow. That makes sense if you think about it. Yeah,
I got the credit card.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the black card. All right. Terrible. It's the dark slide. Bam! There it is.
Slide?
Bam! There it is.
my
Dark
God.
slide?
that
Yeah.
There's so many different varying uses for that term,
that
actually.
we don't cut this because that deserved it. That should have the dark slide should have been cut
You
right.
get the fresh takes.
Cut it room floor.
Let's get to the show.
Taking notes.
Let's get to the show. Let's get to the main program. Anyway,
Hour in, baby.
1
Here
hour
we
in.
go.
Anyway, originally, since we all have the hashtag gamer, hashtag gaming career in common, I wanted to try and find us some good video game related mysteries to dive into together, since we're all certified experts at video games. But let me tell you, other than Polybius, that is a long walk off a short pier into like literal made up creepypasta town. And honestly, Polybius mostly made up as well. So instead, I turned my attention to New Jersey, Pat's homeland, hoping to find something juicy to dive into, but we've already done the Jersey Devil, and I didn't want to do a murder, which there are a lot of in New Jersey, especially since I am still only barely recovered from the fucking Gacy episode Mathis did last month. I'm just saying there's a lot of murder
I just
cases.
watched that. I just watched that at 1 a.m. and I couldn't get to sleep. That's not a good idea.
New documentary. I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited to.
We just did an episode on the show, but I gotta ask, as somebody who's watched it, is there like a large amount of like fried chicken, like bribing going on in the doc?
Do they talk about
What
that?
the hell is that term? Fried chicken bribing?
Okay, so check this out.
Whoa.
So
They probably didn't focus on his life prior to the murders.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Because you're saying because he had all the he was the community leader and was having cookouts.
he'd like
His nickname was the
he'd
Colonel.
grease
He'd
the
bring
wheel with the KFC all the time.
Every single time that like stuff went down, he would show up with like chicken, and people were like, "You're good, my man." He bribed people with chicken. It was crazy.
Well, that wasn't in the documentary. What documentary? There's no fried chicken in my
early on,
documentary.
when
He
on
owned
his
a
first
franchise,
marriage,
yeah.
his father-in-law gave him 3 KFCs as part of a franchise. He ran them, making the equivalent of like 200 grand nowadays in money. Free house.
He was coasting before he went
because the town was so small. He would often end up hanging out at the same areas cops would hang out when they were off duty, and he would bring them free
chicken.
KFC.
He'd be like, "Who wants
when
chicken?"
the murders started happening, he was not even
like,
remotely
"Not the chicken guy,
suspected.
no way."
Was that
He
in the
also
bonus
ran, like, a
episode?
sex
I missed
club?
that. I missed it. I missed
It
it.
probably wasn't in the documentary.
missed
That
the
was part
fried
of
chicken
our
bribery.
trilogy.
No,
That-
yeah,
we did a really deep dive on him.
He had like a KFC sex club thing going on. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he literally had a club under one of the KFCs
There's a
where he
whole
would try and
there's a whole other
fondle his
story
teenage
that is
employees.
fascinating.
Not to be a downer, but the reality is that like a lot of serial killers, they prey upon those that when they go missing, no one cares.
Right.
Oh, you
yes.
are. Yeah, the less dead, good sir.
Yeah.
The less dead.
I mean,
There
that's
was
correct.
so much of that. That's why Alex was saying how messed up he was, because like it got dark quick. We talk about the KFC because that's the one funny bit from the entire series, which was just dark.
And John Wayne Gacy in jail being a whiny bitch and faking heart attacks to get out of being beaten
Nah, F
up.
that guy. Nah, I don't know.
that was
That's not
funny
funny.
stuff
F that
to me.
dude.
What? This wasn't in my Netflix documentary about faking heart attacks.
I feel really proud of
I
my
watch this
work.
documentary. I want to watch the chicken bribing documentary. That's the version I want to
It
watch.
checks
It's a
out.
3-part series on the
It checks
podcast.
out.
Man.
But yeah.
It's good work.
So we didn't do video games. I didn't do New Jersey, so what did I do? Instead, in the interest of making sure this retains the feel of a quote unquote Alex episode, I've decided instead to opt for my new favorite thing, which is keeping everybody guessing during the episode for as long as I possibly can. And so I ask you, do any of you have the one writer that you like to read who you think is like just as good as like the greats, but never got the recognition? Do you know that vibe?
Yeah.
One writer that I like to read that's just as good as the greats,
Like,
Dan Brown.
Tom Clancy.
Yeah. No, I think they're doing it okay.
I think
like
they're already
Clancy.
the
Wait a
greats,
minute.
so it's fine. It's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when it's Clancy, it's all right, but when it's like whoever the hell else it is, and it just says
For a
Clancy
while,
on
I
there.
would say like Brandon Sanderson, but he's hit it big now. Like he's really done really well for himself.
Yeah.
And for a while, I think I would have said Pat Rothfuss, but that man just gave up on really working. So
It's just weird to think about like that there's so many of them out there that like do pretty good and like lots of people read their work and they're very well read and they just kind of disappear. But like that's
What's about to happen here? Where are you
yeah, where are we
going
going?
with
Well,
that's
this?
how I feel about like Robert W. Chambers, for example, right?
I
He's
gotta
like
look these up. I'm not as erudite.
Well,
What is
he's
this?
he's the guy. He's the dude who wrote King in Yellow. This you do not need to look this up. Which is about those like weird like demonic fantasy characters. It's like a play that people read it and they go crazy. It's like part of Cthulhu. It's been like
The book is multiple stories, and the first couple are about this weird play that features the King in Yellow, and if you interact with the play, you literally terrible things happen.
We just did.
Isn't the King in Yellow in that smoochy dating game?
We just did a game about it on Scary Game Squad.
Oh, did you? Okay, yeah. He's in that Cthulhu game.
Sucker for Love.
But a warning: if you get the book King in Yellow, it's only the first couple of stories are about the King in Yellow. The rest of it has absolutely nothing to do with it.
But actually,
okay.
But those other stories are like romance stories that were like the best-selling books in the country at one point in time.
So you are kayfabe supposed to go crazy reading it?
Yeah.
Like fake, like it's a story.
It's a story about a play that drives you crazy.
Gotcha.
It's like several short stories about the people's.
It's very
like
Lovecraft.
in the Cthulhu world where it's like you see the aftermath of what happened to the person, like that kind of
True
thing.
Detective season 1 was kind of like a heavy reference to this character, but it doesn't matter. This is just my example of somebody like this. Nobody knows who the fuck it is. He's heavily referenced. We're not even talking about Robert W. Chambers today, but we are talking about somebody whose life went in the exact same direction, despite all the wonderful and weird things they'd done and built, and the name they made for themselves. And eventually, everyone out there listening to this will know that name well by the end of this episode. But for now, where this story starts, in the town of Birkenhead, England in 1848, just across the Mersey River from Liverpool, on September 13th, he was born to his parents, Joseph and Emily, as a little boy, which I love that he was called Jesse. The main character of this episode is called Jesse, which is just great.
However, what did this attractive sex god do in this story?
Well,
what did this gentleman and scholar do in this?
You're
very
joking,
popular saga.
You're joking, but he did literally everything. However, his parents were very poor due to an economic depression in England at the time. In the 1840s, and became a part of a mass exodus of the hardest hit to other countries that seemed a little bit more promising at the time, which eventually landed his family almost 20,000 other English families in Illinois at that time. And Jesse,
when I think getting away from it all, I think Illinois.
I guess it seemed like a good prospect at the time. And Lil Jesse spent his first 10 years there on a farm in Sangamon County. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Everything in the Midwest has a weird pronunciation. But he was on a farm there. However, his daddy, Joseph, just wasn't cut out for the country life. He had no knowledge of agriculture. He had no idea what he was doing. He couldn't get started selling horses, which he tried to do for a while. And then he had some weird problem where his eyes kept hurting when he was outside in nature that they don't really get into. So eventually he swapped it all for a government job in St. Louis, grabbed his whole family, became city folk pretty cleanly, and then finally had like a happy life for him and his wife by 1865 when they made it to Chicago, the big time. And apparently they have some letters that his mom sent to her cousin fighting in the Civil War at the time. And while they were out sucking it up in the country, just like not doing a good job, she was saying that she could get back to, she wanted to get back to quote unquote civilized life in England someday. And that she had this incredible quote, and I'm going to have Jesse read this quote in his best Mon Mothma impression, who is a real
Mothma impression.
Who's canonically a real person now. I dropped it in the DMs.
All right. I gotta go open that up then.
I know.
Open the twits.
I got some long quotes later, so we got to do it in the DMs. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Okay. For my part, I lost so many precious years of my life wandering in the wilderness.
There you go. Bam. Lil Jesse probably missed those days, though, because it sounded like he had a pretty exciting life out there until he got to St. Louis. He did not go to school. He just got to go out and run around and explore nature all day instead. And for a little while, his house was even a station on the Underground Railroad, bravely in the face of their staunchly pro-slavery Southern neighbors. But yeah, by the time he was a teenager, he was a city boy in Chicago, and he's probably kind of yearning for that excitement that he had when he was young. So when he was 21 years old, after patiently taking the time to learn and become excellent at improvised piano playing, he left home by himself in 1869 and headed to France. And he put the pedal to the metal, hustled a little bit. Eventually, stars align. He runs into Francois Aubert, who was a famous composer at that time. And amazingly, it sort of put him on the fast track to regular gigs in the courts of various royal families. And for 20 years after that, based purely on his own skill and reputation, taking him back and forth across Europe and America multiple times, even once to Australia, which again, this is the 1870s.
I was going to say, man, traveling in that must be
just to give you an idea of how popular he was. You know what I mean? He was able
nuts.
to do this multiple times, went to Australia.
World tour in the 1800s.
Yeah, in the 1870s. And by then, Lil Jesse had grown up and evolved, Pokemon style, into Jesse Shepard, a big guy, tall and thin, with notably large hands and feet, if you know what I mean. Good looks, charming ways, and he had so much self-confidence and so much determination. He was basically just whipping ass everywhere he went, everything he did. He was like Lizzo. Everybody was just like hype to see him when he popped up. And everybody who saw him loved him. Here's a quote from Mathis to read from the French novelist Alexandre Dumas, that he literally said this to the guy. Dumas said
it. This is being said to Lil Jesse?
Yeah, to Jesse Shepard.
With your gifts, you will find all doors open before you.
Yeah. Imagine
I think that kind of got back to Spanish.
Imagine Dumas saying that to you.
It was a little Count Monte Cristo there, so it was like fine. It's fine. Yeah.
It's all right.
I like that vibe.
It's all right.
And then just after that, he also took up writing and was writing in the same magazine as Mark Twain, and he was publishing well-reviewed collections of his own essays in Paris, where they really care about books in France. And then they published his memoirs, The Valley of Shadows, which is kind of like how I know about all this stuff. But the book is also kind of about how the 1858 appearance of Donati's comet prophesized the rise of Abraham Lincoln as a chosen leader of men, which was kind of like a weird tangent for the book to go on. But it's not really out of character for the guy at this point, since A, he was actually present for the last Lincoln-Douglas debate in 1858, which is pretty crazy to think about. And also, B, because he had become something of a like eccentric genius at this point, like by reputation. Kind of like almost like a people get excited about him the way they got excited about like Liberace. Like he was a very colorful character.
So what you're saying is Jesse just gets reincarnated as the same person every single time.
Something like that. But like literally this guy's like a piano master. He's traveling the world.
My personal Liberace.
He's
Jesse,
writing books.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah. Apparently he was just like this really like romantically motivated dude. He had like that very classical style of like artiste going for him. He would have a concert of like extremely powerful European aristocrats fawning over him, and it would just like pour out these emotions, get everyone going. Like one time in England when he was playing piano at this party, and he was just improvising music live on the spot, like based on the sinking of the Titanic, and all these rich ass people and royalty were like crying listening to it, and he was so moved by the power of his own genius that he actually decided to take like a few days to like recover before he went back to America. He like delayed his like ship because he was so tired from like expressing the Titanic.
Where is this madness going?
So now you see what
Is this wait a minute? Is this a typical episode? Like,
it's a typical Alex episode.
you have
Alex
tuned in
brings
for
his own
an
brand.
Usually we have like, this is what this is. You
just gotta jump aboard.
You'll know what this is 45 minutes
and
in.
this is nonfiction, right? Alex is just making up the story.
No.
This is a guy that existed.
This is a real guy.
This is a real thing.
And this is a category.
Weirdest shit.
This is a subject that I picked specifically for you, Pat Contri.
Oh, I got to pay attention. Okay.
How are we getting
I
to
be
there?
taking notes?
No, it'll just be. It's just
enjoy.
I customized it to you. You'll have.
Pat, I need you to know. I need everyone listening right now to know. Alex will tell you. All right, so today's episode is going to be about New Jersey. And then he'll spend an hour nowhere near New Jersey.
This episode is not about New Jersey.
Is pork roll going to come up in this, or a diner or something New Jersey related?
You said this was New Jersey related.
Pork roll is the best thing to put on a breakfast sandwich, but it is not present in this episode. New Jersey itself is not present in this episode. We already touched on.
You said New Jersey.
I said I wanted to do New Jersey, but we already did the Jersey Devil, and I didn't want to do a murder, so we're doing this instead. And I thought
you still were New. I thought we were still in New Jersey.
I truly also thought that meant
I thought you were taking us. You were like, and then Jesse went to England, and then he came back via New Jersey, and
he's not. He didn't come back via New Jersey. So now you know what kind of guy he was, though. It's probably not too surprising to hear that was also super into like weird new agey spiritualism at the time. He's one of those types of guys too. And in 1871, when he was playing for the Tsar of Russia in St. Petersburg. Yeah, General Zhuravsky heard that he was into that dark magic shit and taught him how to do some neat like occult stuff. And sometimes while touring
As part
around,
of his show?
sometimes while touring around and playing these crazy shows, he'd even like dead ass start like playing piano like as soundtracks for his own seances that he was conducting. And then
that would 100% track, Jesse, because at this time,
This sounds
seancing and that
amazing.
shit was a huge seller. New Age spiritualism was a huge thing, and people. This is like what the rich folk would hire people to have seances at their home, so all their friends could come and they could talk to the. So like that doesn't surprise me that this man was doing like the Piano Man version of seancing.
When was this guy born again? Because you just said Titanic, which would be 40 years after this. So when was this guy born?
the Titanic thing is just an account of him doing this one time. This was like the Titanic time was later in his career, but that's just an example.
Later,
of the time.
he'd be dead. That's all. That was 40 years later than this.
He was born in 1848. So the Titanic sank in 1912. So he was alive for it. He just
okay.
He died in 1927. So he was
okay.
Yeah.
So he was like 70 in his 70s for the Titanic story.
He was still doing this, like even at that time. He was like he wasn't 70. He was like 65. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still though.
Yeah.
Still though.
I know. And so yeah, he learned it from this Russian czar, like general sorcerer guy that was his friend. And
General sorcerer.
dude just taught him like how to do seances. And then
He's a general. He's a sorcerer.
He's a
Call him about
general sorcerer guy.
a senior con
that used
artist.
to be totally normal. Every army had that for like 200 years. Anyway,
Alchemist.
yeah, dude, it was all real at one
You
point.
gotta have your Rasputin.
And
Everyone
so
needs a Rasputin.
he builds up this.
Rasputin is so
He
fun
builds up
to
this
talk.
crazy show. He has this reputation. He goes back to Chicago and starts running seances out of the house of a medium by the name of H.H. Crocker in 1880. H.H. Crocker in 1880. He starts running seances out of her house. During these half performance, half ritual shows that he's sort of landed on over the years, he'd say he was contacting Egyptian spirits and he'd have conversations with them and he would, quote, sing in two voices. Don't know what that means, but he would do it. I think it has something to do like with how people like throat sing or something like that. I don't know. They reference his range when they talk about this. In fact, going back to his later career, his last published book that he ever did was called Psycho Phone Messages from 1921, which was a couple years before he died. He literally sold it to people as spirit messages that he'd actually received, like that he channeled from famous, like Julius Caesar or some shit like that. And eventually he even started lecturing around as like a well-respected and serious, quote unquote, world famous mystic, and would talk about like time and space and dimension and consciousness and shit, and just like blow people's minds by like telling them about like basically what we were talking about earlier.
Okay, I'm looking up on Amazon Psycho Phone Messages. It's free on Kindle.
Yeah.
$12 on paperback.
Yeah.
Can I read the description?
Yeah, go for it.
Psycho Phone Messages was originally published in 1921 by Francis Grierson, a mystic, musician, poet, prophet, and overall man of many talents. Grierson was born as Benjamin Henry Jesse Francis Shepard in 1848 in England, but grew up in Illinois, not Jersey. It says that on Amazon, not Jersey.
Illinois.
He later took his mother's maiden name when publishing Modern Mysticism in 1899. By 1915, the Washington Herald hailed Grierson as the strangest man in the world.
Yeah.
So great and varied and unearthly are Grierson's gifts that it is difficult to consider him as a human being. The paper wrote, if he had lived in ancient times, his contemporaries would have made an oracle, prophet, or saint out of him. His most particular talent was displayed at the piano, where he completely improvised without ever learning to read a note of music. Grierson's abilities led him to travels throughout Europe, playing before crowned heads and causing Alexandre Dumas to say, I predict for you a marvelous future.
Yeah. Can you believe that you don't know who this person is before this? Doesn't that seem crazy?
There was no Instagram. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess he wrote it himself too. That's his own book, but still. But yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what is your primary source for all this information?
So I kind of shouted out. I've grabbed I kind of pulled it together from a bunch of sources. A couple of them are from like newspaper clippings from back in the time. So I got some of the details from there. And there was like a really good article that was done by the San Diego Historical Society that gave me a lot of like real hard facts and numbers about stuff. And then somebody did a like crazy sort of like, you know, it's like a scan from a book from archives.org that's like from the 60s while stuff was still happening. But we haven't really gotten to the meat of this yet. So we'll get to, it'll start to make sense why I picked this for you very soon. But yeah, he did these weird seance shows for a good long time until January of 1887, when suddenly during a great real estate boom, he found himself down in good old San Diego, California, having a custom mansion built for himself at 1925 K Street. Which is in like Sherman Hill, I think it's called. It's not the greatest neighborhood, but it's a pretty beautiful house. However, according to L.W. Tonner, who was Shepard's beloved like clerk, ward, and companion of 40 years. I'm pretty sure this is like a gay relationship that's just like
6 blocks east of Petco Park where the Padres play, by the way.
They were just best friends. Alex.
I think it's like his like partner in life. But they don't go right up and say it, but I'm just kind of reading between the lines.
Beautiful house.
15 years younger than him. Yeah. The circumstances surrounding the house's construction were pretty unconventional. I have a short quote here for Pat to read, which I'm going to drop in your Twitter right now. Bango.
Who am I quoting? Who's saying this?
You are L.W. Tonner, Shepard's possible boyfriend and live-in ward of 15 years his younger.
What's a live-in ward's voice?
Like Robin.
Certain rich townspeople gave the land and some of the money to build the villa. The idea being to attract attention to the town, which it certainly did.
Yeah. And these rich townspeople were none other than William H. High and his brother John, a.k.a. the High Brothers. 2 rich fans of his who thought it might be a good investment to sort of give him a home base / party parlor in their town to like get people coming to San Diego. And on February 19th. Oh my God.
All right. Yeah. Listen, hold on. If we ever buy a Chilluminati mansion, can we please have a seance parlor as part of that mansion?
I'm sorry. It's called a party parlor.
Party parlor.
Okay. Party parlor. Sorry. I'll use appropriate terminology.
Party parlor.
Yeah.
Multiple use rec room.
Multiple use rectum. And on February 19th, 1887, there was an announcement that went out in the San Diego Sun, which I have here for Jesse to read, which I will drop in to the DM slot right now. Where did I get? Oh, I got the DM from Jesse about doing a Rasputin episode.
You're not supposed to spoil it. I mean, I really want to do a Rasputin.
That rat Putin.
I really want to do an episode.
Wants to do an episode about that rat Putin. That's what I said.
Man, you can do like multiple episodes on that, man.
All right. Anyway, yeah, there's the quote for you there in the DMs.
Jesse, who said this?
This is the San Diego Sun.
I don't. What's the San Diego
It's a newspaper.
accent?
I don't know where it's like
It's not like this.
yeah, they sound like skaters.
Jesse Shepard, formerly of Paris, France, and will build a $10,000 cottage on the corner of 19th and K Streets. Messrs. Comstock and Trosh Architects are preparing the plans.
Yeah, and this beautiful, mystical, and mysterious Queen Anne-style mansion, it's like a Victorian-style mansion, would eventually become known far and wide as Via Montezuma. Though it actually ended up costing more like...
I'm Googling this.
Cost more like $25K all told, which if you think about the fact that this was...
What year was that? I want to look up how much that is.
What did I say? 1887?
That's like $4 million
so
now,
expensive, yeah.
or something.
Insane amount of money.
With today's inflation... Yeah, it's like $400,000 just about. A little bit
That's
more.
it? Only 8 times? From 1848?
Stuff probably had more value.
Sorry. It was 700,000.
Okay.
That's what it's worth. 700K.
Yeah, if you look at this thing, it looks like the house from Casper. Like if you check like from the movie.
I had no
Casper.
idea this existed like 20 minutes away from me that I can go visit
That's
this
why
place.
I picked it.
This is
Now
amazing.
you can go
Thank you,
see.
Alex.
Now that you know, you can go see.
I know about the Whaley house, which is like 15 minutes away.
Yeah, dude. But I love that. Okay. All right. Anyway.
Thank you, Alex. I love you.
Yeah.
I knew this was going somewhere. It took 14 hours when we were here.
That's how Alex does it. If you are looking this up, the best photo is the full street corner view of this house because nothing around it looks even remotely similar.
It's like a pretty sketch zone, actually. Like it's not. Well, maybe it's gotten a little better, but when I was there 7 or 8 years ago, it was like there was like a guy who was like lurking near us when we got out to look at the house, and I was like, "Who is that guy?" And he kind of like shuffled behind a pole. It was not a good zone.
He shuffled behind a pole like a cartoon
like a
character.
cryptid, yeah, like a Bigfoot
like
sighting.
a cryptid.
Yeah.
San Diego cryptid.
You tried to take a photo and it was blurry. It was weird.
The zoo man.
It was a shadow figure.
It's just Pat. It was just Pat Contri. Yeah, so it happened. He gave his first performances in town and around town. Here's a short review from one time that he did a performance somewhere in town just to show you guys how good this guy was doing. This is for Mathis to read, just to see what the zone was with this dude.
The zone with this man. Hang on, it's loading. There we go. And all right. This voice was indeed a fragment of celestial harmony. It has been my good fortune to hear Mr. Shepard in other cities in Europe and America. It is indeed magnanimous of him to forget all the honors and distinction of the world, and from the organ loft of this unpretentious church, pour forth an invocation in song and humanity.
Think about that. That's like something he did not write about himself, so that's pretty crazy. This was also around the time that he began writing essays and reading a lot of spiritualism and philosophy, and he landed on the idea that his talent came to him via a higher power, which granted him a natural intuition. Like God wanted him, or like a higher spirit wanted him to like do these things for some reason, and so it comes naturally to him for that reason. And in one of the articles I read about him from the San Diego History Center, they included a quote of his from the first published essay that he ever did, which was about a Catholic priest in France, as something that he probably thought about himself as well. And I will have Pat Contri read that for us. This is about this is an excerpt from an essay by Jesse Shepard.
I'm a priest.
He's just about a priest.
Oh, about a priest. Okay. Joseph Roux is before everything a man of meditation and thought, whose whole life may be likened to an alien harp fixed in the turret of a deserted castle, so finely strung that the faintest breeze awakens a pensive and responsive tone.
Yeah. So that's kind of the idea he had of himself, maybe, is something like that. So I guess after almost a decade of like weird, crazy ghost parties and performances and stuff, he got bored of the life. He changed his name to Francis Grierson or Grierson, not sure which. He's British, so I'm guessing Grierson, I don't know. From his mother's maiden name, moved to Europe again to live this entire second life as like a slightly more like Christian-ish spiritualist writer.
What age would this have been?
This was
Is this post-Titanic sing-along?
This is in 1889. So he never stopped doing music either.
Wait. So he has this like, I am in the 1800s a dude who does mysticism. Mm-hmm. Is like, enough of this racket. I'm gonna move overseas and become a song and dance man?
I'm going to move overseas and become a famous author, spiritualist essayist, and also continue to be one of the most premier like touring musicians who plays piano in the entire world.
Now, do people understand it was him? Like they were like, oh, he just changed his name.
Probably not. Like probably not in the way that we do now. It's like changing your name back then, like there probably wasn't even a lot of pictures of you. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you could probably just disappear super easy.
So, he changed his name, and that's like, if you look him up today, that's what he's known as, Francis Grierson. Like,
just speculative. Do you think he seanced the wrong person? Like he
got possessed?
I'm like, no, not possessed. I'm more thinking of like, when I think seance, I think like, oh yeah, I'm going to say whatever you want me to say in order to get your money. And I'm thinking that this dude like, people are buying him homes.
Yeah.
And the wealthy also have power and they don't mess around. So I know that if you piss off the wrong person, you're changing your name and you're fleeing to Europe.
I'm really glad you asked me that, because that's like literally exactly what I'm going to get into right now. So his farewell show was in December 17th, 1889. Same day, via Montezuma, and everything inside, all the furnishings, was sold to David D. Dare, vice president of the California National Bank. Done deal, just like that, nice and clean, same day that he left town. Almost 15 years later, in 1913, one of the nephews of the High brothers, Sam High, was interviewed in an article called Weird House of Ghosts, built by spiritualists as home for spooks, where he was the first person to really call Jesse Shepard's good intentions into question. It described the house as a, quote, temple of art and occultism, which for years brought ill luck to all who bought it, which was like the big rumor about is that like it ruined your life if you owned it. And the captions under the photograph said things like, Via Montezuma, built as temple of occultism by slick trickster. And it painted the High brothers as simple fruit sellers who got hoodwinked into spending their life savings on the place and dying poor. Here is a quote from Sam High for Jesse to read. A little bit chunkier quote for you here. So this one.
There it is. I'm so thrilled because I was like, no way this dude just straight up and leaves.
Well,
he had a life. Well, so now it makes sense.
Read this quote here. This is for Jesse.
All right. Yes, I remember Jesse Shepard, I remember him well, and a fine fraud he was. If my old uncles had never met Jesse Shepard, they would have died about $500,000 richer than they did, and I'd have been a bit better off for myself today.
Someone's a little bit bitter about what happened.
Sad as it was in one way, I can't help laughing. To think of Shepard with his secretary and his servants rolling in luxury, and the two poor old uncles, who were putting up for it, driving by in their little wagon, peddling their vegetables from door to door. In 1889, when Shepard saw that the game could not last much longer, he sold the house, or rather traded it, for one in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then disappeared. I remember some time afterward, Shepard sent a deed to the Cheyenne property to my Uncle John. The old man was mighty pleased for a while, particularly when he found out it was worth about $10,000. But all his pleasure disappeared when he learned that Shepard had already mortgaged it for $12,000. Yeah, this is a con man racket. It all checks out.
Wait a minute. He traded the deed to the Montezuma for a place in Wyoming?
Yeah, so that's what this dude said in the newspaper, but here is the real facts. The actual High brothers were much more like rich socialites and landowners who happened to like be in the fruit farm owning business. And nobody knows exactly how much, if any, of the house Shepard paid for himself. But even if he was absolutely destitute and like had no money to pay for the house at the time, purely off the success of his writing at the time and the fact that he was like slaying it at shows, he probably could have if he needed to, but also he did borrow $4,000 to get back to Europe when he left town. So who the heck knows?
Thank you to StoryWorth for sponsoring this episode. You know, I was actually talking to my mom the other day, and I know my mom better than anyone. But as things come up and we were chatting, I had heard her tell me a story I'd never heard before. And that got me to thinking, how many other things about my mom don't I know? And that's when I decided to get my mom StoryWorth. StoryWorth is an online service that helps you and your loved ones connect through sharing stories and memories and preserves them for years to come. Every week, StoryWorth emails your mom a thought-provoking question of your choice from a vast pool of possible options. Each unique prompt asks questions you've never thought of, like, what's some of the best advice your mother gave to you? Or, if you were to do it all over again, how would you do it differently? I've personally enjoyed reading my mom's thoughts and answers to these questions. I've discovered stories and memories I never heard about her, and learned new things about stories I thought I really actually knew. Like, I knew my mom was good in school and was smart and went to college really early. What I didn't know is that my mom had a photographic memory, and that's something that only I learned a couple of weeks ago. After 1 year, StoryWorth will compile all those questions and stories, including photos, into a beautiful keepsake book the whole family can share for generations. Give all the moms in your life a meaningful gift you'll both cherish for years. StoryWorth. Right now, for a limited time, you'll save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/chill. That's StoryWorth.com/chill to save $10 on your first purchase. Storyworth.com/chill.
A lot of versions of this story still say that the High brothers really did die poor, but that's not true. They each had sizable amounts of land to their name, got married, settled down, were selling parcels of that land for much higher than they paid right till the end of their lives, and were living quite comfortably off of that, though the villa probably did lose them a little bit of money, because as it turns out, the property in Wyoming, which was called Castle Dare, owned by David D. Dare, was actually more of a clean trade deed for deed, but with a mortgage, offset $10,000 in cash, which Shepard needed at that time. So he was like, yeah, you can have my house in beautiful San Diego in exchange for your house in Wyoming, but you need to take a mortgage out on it and give me $10,000 as to sweeten the deal so I can pay off some debts right now. And so basically,
so then when he gave them, so basically what you're saying is, just so I can math this out, he said, okay, you can have the San Diego house if you give me this house in Wyoming fair trade.
Mortgage it,
However,
$10,000.
I need an extra 10K on top of that.
Yes.
And so the dude mortgaged the house?
Yeah, so Shepard
To get
didn't.
the
So
10K?
Shepard did not mortgage the house. The guy,
No, the other guy did to make them to get the money.
So that
to
was
get the money.
so that was different than what this dude said in the paper. And
Right,
also,
well, I think the guy in the paper might be mistaken because what ends up happening is that then he sends the deed to the house to them, but like without having paid any of the mortgage off.
well, but he knew he was the one who put the mortgage on the house. It wasn't the guy who sold the house in Wyoming was the one who put the mortgage on the house in Wyoming.
right.
in
But
order
I'm
to pay.
saying that like he took the 10K and then
But
it's like,
so
like
here's
he
the-
like flipped a thing. Like he's
but
it's
here's
like
the other part of the
almost
deal.
money laundering. Where he was
but
like,
here's the thing: both of the houses were actually worth the same amount. It was valued at the same. So though the brothers did lose some money in the trade, he was not culpable in any way for any money to the brothers. He gave them this other property for nothing.
but the property had a mortgage on it. Is
The
what I'm
property
saying.
had a mortgage on it, but they still got like $15,000 worth of property.
Right, I'm just saying that like the rich cousin, son, whatever, the dude from the article, he's just talking about the negative parts because like that's all he's focused on because he's like they screwed me out of my money.
Yeah, but he also
Which,
he also lied. Like he did because they didn't screw him out of money because there was no agreement. Like he just went in and was like, these guys are dicks. And actually, David D. Dare and his partner John W. Collins had, quote, systematically looted the California National Bank so badly that not only did it literally cause the bank to fail in 1891, but his partner Collins shot himself in the face rather than face the bank examiners, which made it very
So-
likely that Dare was probably doing the back dealings, if anyone.
So you're
was.
telling me that everyone involved, crazy, I know, it's gonna sound crazy, but all these people involved with this scammer dude were also bad people?
Yeah, but
I refuse
but
to believe
also,
such a thing.
As I kind of hinted at about the French Catholic priest essay, the alternate theory about what happened was simply that Shepard just kind of like found religion in San Diego, took another name, and was like, I'm not going to be this guy who's in this like party parlor anymore. He
Fled to Europe.
He went to Los Angeles briefly in 1888 while he was still living at the house, a year before he decided to leave. And he got baptized as a Roman Catholic in Los Angeles at a church. So he kind of was having like a change of faith. So either way, after that initial sale to Dare, via Montezuma passes from rich people to rich people, some of whom do in fact experience varying degrees of financial hardship over the time that they own the house, including Dr. George Kalmus, who bought the house in 1900, and then pretty soon after that, 6 years later, skipped out on his wife and 2 mortgages, including that house. And then after Dr. Kalmus pieces out, it's sold to Mr. George Sinclair at an auction, who rents it out to Mr. and Mrs. George W. Montgomery. And Mrs. Montgomery, again, starts doing seances in the house because she picks up such a vibe off the house. And then it's sold for 33 years. It stays with the president of the Benson Lumber Company and his wife, who then sell it to James and Fora Craig, who turned it into a rooming house for defense workers in like 1942 when they bought it for World War II. It becomes a rooming house. And then they move another house onto the land in the garden and divide it into 2 properties and sell them off separately at the end of the war. And Edward Campbell buys the house because he heard that Shepard had a hidden treasure sealed in his basement of like relics from the East. So he purchases the house for like a couple months. He goes in there and looks around, can't find anything, sells it to, quote, Hanson and McPhail, who buy the house. And then they sell it to a retired engineer and an ex-silent movie actress, Carl and Amelia Yeager. And then Carl Yeager dies, and by some accounts, Amelia like loses her grip a little bit, and she's often a fixture out on the street asking people where her dead husband is, and when they don't know, she pulls a gun on them. So it's like it's starting to get.
She's probably like 79 years
She's
old
like,
at this
"Where's
point.
my
80 years
husband?"
old.
Yeah, but it's
It's like silent film star.
Yeah.
It's like, by this point, what are we in the 60s? By this point, or 70s?
Yeah, 60s. I'm picturing Seinfeld when it's like Kramer, but it's this crazy thing. So the parties representing Amelia's interests, quote unquote, probably like some lawyers who are like, wow, she's really old. They try to sell the house in 1968 for half its value. But Amelia's family is like, what? Why? No. They contest the sale. It's voided by the Superior Court. And it's left open for the San Diego Historical Society to actually swoop in and grab it, purchase it, convert it into a museum, get it designated as a historical site with the city of San Diego, and listed on the National Register of Historic Places by 1971, with a full restoration of the building completed by November the following year. Over the years, more and more efforts have been made, especially after surviving a fire in 1986, to restore Via Montezuma closer and closer to its original appearance, funded by tours and donations. And in 2007, the Friends of Via Montezuma goes from being an auxiliary arm of the San Diego Historical Society to a full-blown nonprofit. The museum is still open today. It was closed for a while because of the pandemic, and it's opened and closed a lot over the years because sometimes it has to be closed. But the house is designed based off concepts put forth by Jesse Shepard himself and the prestigious Comstock and Trotsky architecture firm. All the interior decorating was selected by Jesse Shepard himself. It was built on a slight hill. It's 2 stories high with a basement containing a kitchen and a little storage space. And on the almost 3rd floor, there is one more room. I say it's a 3rd floor because it's alone in a tower by itself. That was Shepard's study. I encourage you to look at some pics of this house because it looks weirder than you think. Listeners at home, I bet. Inside the house, the walls are polished redwood. The ceilings are silver Lincrusta Walton, which is like an old-timey fancy linoleum. It has like colorful windows on both its inside and outside walls with panes of art glass set in them, which is kind of like baby's first mosaic. It looks really nice in glass, but it's like a very simple mosaic style. On the 1st floor is the pink room, a reception room with art glass of grapes and flowers. It was painted fully pink, and everything was pink in the room, down to the candles. All the beautiful hardwood floors were covered by Persian and Turkish rugs. Shepard chose every fabric, piece of upholstery, every rug in the house, everything, arranged it all himself. On the other side of the house was a giant music room. On one side had an octagonal conservatory salon with a tile floor that had exotic plants, 4 art glass windows depicting the seasons, another giant one of the Greek poet Sappho and 2 cupids, and Milton's Il Penseroso and L'Allegra. And on the other side of the room is a room with art glass portraits of Beethoven and Mozart and Rubens and Raphael, and portraits depicting the Orient and the Occident. And the portrait of the Orient is like a person who is not a real person, who's just an allegory portrait, but it's actually a portrait. The Oriental man, quote unquote, is Shepard himself. It's his face. And it's because he's obsessed with the mystical Eastern racist sort of old school Asian fascination that people used to have. Here's a quote about that room from Mathis to read right now, just to give you an idea of how absolutely insane this room was.
There it is. Reluctantly, the eye leaves the marvelous figures constituting the art glass windows and looks about to observe the next surprise. Art, pure and simple, is found in everything. There are no pictures in the music room, save those in the art windows, but the hard-finished redwood walls are relieved by 8 ebony panels inlaid with bas-relief figures of ivory and mother of pearl that are hung at intervals. In addition to the 6 heavy Persian rugs that cover the waxed floor, an immense polar bear skin is in its center. Opposite Sappho's portrait is the mantle. It is of medieval design and is built of imported English tiles, heavily glazed in porcelain bricks. The design of the mantle is purely original. It represents the roof of a tower of one of the old German castles like those found along the Rhine, and extends halfway up to the ceiling. Small black walnut shingles of odd shapes cover it from top to bottom, save at one place where a portico platform, also of walnut, is placed. This bears a bronze bust of Diana, who seems to look down from the height as if charmed by the beautiful surroundings.
Is that not insane?
That sounds bananas.
Yeah. On the south side, along with a fireplace that has a secret passage behind it and an 18-foot bay window framed by life-size art glass portraits of Shakespeare, Goethe, and Corneille, was the red room in which Shepard slept and which had reddish Lincrusta Walton walls with matching bed linens, and the gold room, which was a library decorated with windows framed with cathedral glass. All his art, books, writing, and memorabilia, and his study, aka his quote, sanctum sanctorum, had windows in all 4 directions and a revolving chair to help him look out of them with. Pretty grand stuff. But I did not find out about the Via Montezuma because of the museum. I actually looked that up later. The way Via Montezuma was first introduced to me was when I went down there about 7 years ago or so with my family, and we stopped there on a ghost tour bus that we took out of Old Town right next to the Whaley House. And it was the grand finale of the tour because apparently there's plenty of stories of strange occurrences going down on the premises. So there's actually two main ghosts said to be present at the villa. One is supposed to be Jesse Shepard himself, who's both been seen as a tall, pale figure in a dark gray suit. And heard playing piano in various parts of the house, especially at night when things are very quiet. I believe that the current bathroom is like near the red room, which was his bedroom, and people say they hear piano music coming out of there a lot. Also, it's not really clear how the rumor got started of a butler hanging himself from the rafters inside the Sanctum Sanctorum, but because there's nothing like that on historical record. But a hanging figure has been seen and reported many times through the window of that room, and also peering out through many of the various other windows on this copiously windowed building. Seriously, like, look at this building. There are a shitload of windows on this building. Also, people on tours have reported weird feelings and strange phenomena in the house. Like I mentioned, how there's an art glass portrait of Peter Paul Rubens, Peter Paul Rubens, who is, he has a beard in the portrait, and the beard apparently over time has aged in the way that a man's natural beard would age into like salt and pepper gray, which is pretty funny. And one corner of the grounds of the house, plants will never grow there, no matter what any gardeners do. And there's also a silver Abyssinian cat with blue eyes. You should Google what those are. Blue eyes and extra toes. It had the name Psyche. It not only survived the fire, but was said to have lived far beyond the normal lifespan of a cat. And that...
that's a little suspicious.
Yeah, and that is the story of Lil Jesse, a.k.a. Jesse Shepard, a.k.a. Francis Grierson, and that haunted temple of occultism, the Via Montezuma. But don't take my word for it, because I also grabbed a couple of testimonials from Weird California, which is like, in tribute to Pat, sort of like the bootleg California version of Weird New Jersey.
Well, Weird New Jersey was like the first one, then all the other states started doing their own weird versions of like
the Weird New
stuff.
Jersey is like a journalistic institution compared to this.
Yes.
But I grabbed some quotes from the comment section of the page on Via Montezuma for people to read. They're all like firsthand accounts of paranormal activity. So here's one for Pat to read. And these are I think I dropped in the wrong chat. Here, hold on. This one's for Pat to read. They are presented as written, so do your best.
Is this on Twitter?
Yeah, not everyone is as erudite as me, as you would say. So the typing is not so hot.
This is from the comment section of, was this Weird California?
Yeah.
Jen of San Diego, California on June 8th, 2014 said, me and my dad went to the Villa Montezuma several years back when the Ghosts and Gravestone tour still took you inside haunted buildings. We were standing in one of the rooms, just three of us, and one of the rocking chairs slowly started rocking back and forth. Once we all started looking at it, it abruptly came to a stop, as if the person sitting in it just got up and walked away. Oddest experience I've had.
Pretty solid.
Very spooky.
Like,
Was not a shadow figure, though.
Yeah, who weirdly has like the vibe of a Yelp review for some reason. Here's one.
3 out of 5.
Yeah, 3 out of 5 stars on ultimaterollercoaster.com. Here is...
Oh man, a lot of the viewers went there and apparently they tried to leave their own reviews and it did nothing.
I know, I saw that. There's like a weird mystery about the reviews on ultimaterollercoaster.com. Here's another quote for Jesse to read. Bam. The one from Joe.
Joe Gutierrez of Bellflower, California on the 16th of February 2009 said, in October 2004, my wife and I went to, that's a scroll down. My wife and I went on a Halloween tour of Old Town San Diego. We went to the Whaley House and Via Montezuma. When we were walking through the music room, I fell behind a bit, and on the way out, I could hear piano music. 2 days later, we were walking to talking to our friends about the trip. I told them about the piano music, and they play on the tour. My wife told me that they don't play music. So we called that day and asked if they did, and they said no. So I got to hear Mr. Shepard play for me. It sounded great.
It sounded great.
It sounded great.
It do sound great. It sounds great, Joe. And then here's one for Mathis to read. Dropping that in there. Bam.
Kristen of Las Vegas, Nevada, on December 14th, 2008. I went on a private tour of the house in June 2004. Upon entering the house, it was beautiful and old, but it didn't really seem haunted. As we were leaving, I got a notion to snap a picture of the tower, and sure enough, when I had the film developed, there was a face looking back at me. Is that creepy or what?
How come you get the one that like doesn't end in like it sound great?
Yeah, maybe they have the same shining that Pat had when he needed to go check the hallway. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to go check. I don't know. And
Sometimes you got to look.
Yeah, finally, here's one from me. John of San Diego, California, on April 18th, 2012 said, I live right next to the Via. Weird stuff does happen. My window faces the house too, so I prefer to keep it closed. He's the Squidward. He's the Squidward of the neighborhood. Don't worry about him. Also, just before we started recording, I found out that BuzzFeed Unsolved did an episode on the Via Montezuma. And the best piece of new information that I got was that Jesse Shepard, a.k.a. Francis Grierson, actually died in Los Angeles immediately after his final performance in 1927. Like literally sitting still at the piano bench with his hands on the keys after hitting the final chord of his final song during the final performance of the evening. And he actually was living in poverty when he died. And that's that. Yeah. Thank you for coming, Pat. I really appreciate you coming to this.
I don't believe that story. I think that was made up, but okay.
Dude, it's 100% true. 100% true.
What's the sourcing for that last story?
Wikipedia.
So looking on Wikipedia real quick, he died, looks like he died penniless, this guy.
Yeah.
So he was, my encapsulation is he's a grifter. He was the John Edward of his day. It sounds like.
Except he could fucking slay on the keyboards.
It sounds like he sweet talked those brothers for the real estate moguls to get a free fucking house and then 10 grand out of it. And he sounded like he was a sweet talker. That's what it sounds like. And that's how he made his money and lived.
Yeah. And again, 10 grand is like more like 200 grand actually, right?
Yeah, that's a ton.
Yeah.
And I don't know about his writings. I don't know what this man does. I don't know his business, but he had a good thing going. It sounds like it sounds like he was half a guy that was famous for being famous. It sounds like he was talented, but like he just knew how to, how do you meet all these people all over the world back then? Like as no one ever heard of. Like, right. So it must have been word of mouth and friends introducing them to other people. And then that's what it was. Good for him.
Isn't it insane that you just have never heard his name anywhere ever?
He lived 20 minutes from me. It's 6 blocks from Petco Park, and I had no idea it was there. It's a national historical monument, basically.
You gonna go check it out?
Yeah, I'll check it out. If you want to go check it out, the advertising. They're open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
There you go.
Admission is adults $15. There's 2 tours a day. It sounds like the tours are separate. The tours are $20 at 1 and 4 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Worth.
What's super interesting about this story that I would love to see if it's covered in any kind of way is the idea that the wealthy of this time period had so little to do and so much money that like they elevated a man from nothing to entertain them. And his whole existence was to be a jester for these people. And like, there's a whole other angle of this story. This man like lived to entertain the wealthy and elite and then like got out and he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But then like
today people buy like
again, then went back to
pictures.
Doing it.
You know, like it's all the same game over and over again.
They buy monkey pictures.
Stupid fucking like a monkey smoking a fucking cigarette.
I was having a conversation with a friend the other day. We were talking about like we went out to go eat hamburgers and the burger we got was one that had like bacon, dates, and goat cheese on the burger. And we were like, you know what?
Yeah,
all these things 100 years ago would have been like only the wealthy could make this burger happen. And we were talking about how people would buy and rent pineapples. Like the wealthy would rent pineapples to have them as a display thing in their home because it was so hard to get a pineapple that people would be like, you must be rich because and then they would rent the like rotting pineapple to their friends so everyone could show it off because there was so little access to pineapples.
It's like the $1,000 iPhone app that's a picture of a diamond.
Yeah, and it's that kind of thing where it's just like
a thing?
It was when the iPhone first dropped. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
think
just
about
to
it.
show how wealthy you were. Yeah.
We're talking about the latter half of 1800s, right? So you can go to plays if you have like a theater in your town. There's probably plays. You know, there's going to be some musical performances in some larger towns and cities. Not everywhere. Out in the sticks, you don't have that. You have to entertain yourself with music, like people playing the harpsichord back then or a piano. Like that's how you entertain. That's why you go to every Victorian house. There's like a party room basically.
100%. Like the conservatory. Yeah.
Or you had a hangout room basically. Not anymore in houses you don't only have. You mean you have like a den or rec room, but like you needed a space where like groups of people hung out regularly because that's all you do to have fun.
Yeah.
Besides, I guess, read. That's all you can do regularly.
Drugs and alcohol. Huge part of the 1800s.
I want a conversation pit in my next house when I buy a house.
So a guy like this, there's probably like hundreds of people like this guy throughout history back then. Are just like, oh, it's just a guy you hire. He does some bullshit magic seance stuff. He can play the piano. He probably told a joke or two. He entertained with stories, and that's what you did. Like I said, he was a jester.
Yeah, he's David Blaine.
Yeah,
but that was your movie for the night. You hired this guy. You gave him $20 or whatever. Coming out, hang out. And that was it. That was your entertainment. You probably told all your friends, hey, I got that guy. You heard about this guy? I got him. Come on over. We're going to have a barbecue. If they had a barbecue back then, we're going to have drinks. We're going to get slosh and watch this guy pretend to talk to your dead aunt.
Yeah,
that's what you did.
It was like a little salation. It wasn't like we're going to the opera or we're going to a play. It was, there was a little bit of like what every human kind of loves, that little salacious,
they
like,
know it's a grift.
dirty. This is
they kind of know it's a grift a little bit. Like that. Did you see that movie with Bradley Cooper recently?
Which one's this?
Nightmare Alley or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That's a remake of a noir that Frank liked. And Frank actually liked, he said, this remake.
It was
He saw the original.
great. Yeah, it really did good. I think it's a book too, but yeah, same deal. It's like he's a mentalist or something. It's like the same kind of grift.
There's something to be said for that like if this guy was showing up at your house, like you probably like you scored something big.
He's
like
a pineapple, right? Yeah.
Your stature,
he's a rental
your
pineapple.
stature went up.
Yeah.
Because think about it today. Like today when you have like, oh, we're going to have board game night or we're going to have, I don't know, bring wine and cheese. There's no longer, I'm going to hire this weirdo guy that can do all these different things. Come on over. We're going to have a whole night.
Maybe like at a kid's birthday party is the last place that ever happens.
Exactly. But like not some guy that is known for like keeping court overseas.
No, but some people do. Like they're like, yo, the Red Hot Chili Peppers are playing at my fucking house, like for spring break. Like, come on down. I paid
that's
kind of like,
that's not this guy. Come on.
It might as well be. Like if you could, if in the 1800s you had a way of contacting anyone you wanted, you could get fucking Abraham Lincoln to come fucking do a cake.
I don't.
You could get Honest Abe to come do a cake stand at your party for the right price.
So we do like a 20-minute speech and just get paid.
He just does the Gettysburg Address. He does a cake stand. He's out. He kills a vampire.
Well, you brought up someone brought up the Frederick Douglass debates or the Douglass debates.
Lincoln Douglas debates. Yeah,
Lincoln Douglas debates. Sorry, it was confusing Douglas.
Yeah.
Those were huge. They toured the U.S.
Yeah.
Doing those because that's like, oh, this is like a 2.5 hour debate. This is like,
it's like, yo, you want to go see Batman in real life? I'm like,
this is the best thing over.
Yeah.
I mean, God, you got to see a debate. That's your entertainment. This is before, like you have like a whole, there's no local sports teams to go watch in every city.
You go get murdered in the fucking prison yard. Like you go, let somebody's neck get broke. It's crazy what you do.
I guess so.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I got one
musical John Edwards though. I'd be down. I'd go watch
if he
a
had
musical
guitar,
John
that'd be
Edwards
a different show.
I'd still be upset. I'd still be like, y'all are just believing this.
If he had like a fucking effects pedal on his guitar, that'd be another show entirely. I would watch. I wouldn't care if it was true.
God.
And if there's any rich bored people out there that want a group of clowns to call their own, patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, you can go ahead and sign up.
Buy us? Is that what you're saying? You know what?
Yeah,
I'm
buy
here
us.
for it.
Listen, everything has a price tag, all right?
I want to quickly shout out to Weird California. I want to shout out San Diego Ghosts. I want to shout out Friends of the Via Montezuma Inc. and the biographical sketch and bibliography of Francis Grierson by Harold P. Simonson from 1961. Pat, where should the people go if they want more Pat Contri in their lives? What should they do?
I mean, do you want the podcast? It's #CU podcast.
Do it all.
I'm on you.
Go through do the whole spiel.
I mean, Alex, you gave me the spiel via Michael before, but you can go to PatTheNESPunk on YouTube. I got the Flea Market Madness videos. I got a couple of game books, soon to be a third book.
What's going on with the Amico now? What's happening?
The Amico, we are now in the very slow fade away period of the Amico.
You think
where
he's just called it quits already?
the company's dead. They're laying off people. They can't get a new person to keep this grift afloat. And so it's the slow fade away now where they took what is up to $17 million, people are saying, between pre-orders and investments, where there's no accountability. People that put in their $100 deposits can't get paid back via the company. And it's the worst nightmare. It's the Coleco Chameleon on steroids that we try to prevent people from getting into back then, that somehow succeeded this time out. And now it's the slow fade away where, it's going to be a slow death. One day it's just going to be like, we're declare bankruptcy in television entertainment. That's it.
Is Jesse Shepard and the Via Montezuma the Tommy and the television amico of Old Town San Diego?
No, because Shepard had talent and actually produced content.
Superfluously, if you think about it, Tommy Tallarico superfluously does play guitar very well and write a lot of iconic games.
Well, true. Well, not to turn us to a bash session, but word is on the street is that he air guitars at all the video games live performances.
Okay, Chilluminati hot takes. Here we go. Check out
Aliens Are
the
Psychic.
Completely
That's my hot
Unnecessary
take.
podcast
Continue.
with Pat and Ian. It's a good fucking show. Go watch it if you want that exact vibe right there. And also like a weird amount of talk about like very bad mayonnaise. Last time I checked in with them.
What bad mayonnaise?
Yeah,
What?
heavy duty. We were at it was at
the bulk mayonnaise from college. Yes.
Yeah. we were at the con at what's it called? Retro
SoCal?
Yeah. SoCal Retro. Yeah. Hilarious. Very good time. Pat, it was an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
This was not as painful as I thought it'd be. This has been great.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we try to make it less
Please
painful.
go buy the rest of our tickets in Austin, Texas. I will be filled with barbecue and stories to tell at the bar after the show. I love you guys. Mike, get us out of here.
Yeah. We're out of here. Off to do a mini-sode over at patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod as we do every single week. We hope to see you guys over there. Until next week, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Anyway, me and my wife were sitting outside indulging on our porch one night, enjoying ourselves. I needed to go to the bathroom, so I stepped back inside, and after a few moments, I hear my wife go, "Holy shit, get out here." So I quickly dash back outside, and she's looking up at the sky in awe. I look up too, and there's a perfect line of dozen lights traveling across the sky.